let me know if you guys have any doubts anywhere or you want me to go slow. Okay. So first of all, what I want you to do is let me just share my screen. Yeah, I hope my screen's visible. So I've shared a link in the chat. So I want you all to go to this link. It's a Google Drive link. And in that link, there are Python notebooks. So you can just download that entire folder. And once you download that folder, it will look something like this. So and in these 11 files, you can just open in Google Colab, just and then open notebook. And then there's an upload tab here. Then you just click browse, and then you select whichever notebook you want to open. So we can skip zero. So I just want you to open 01. That is if you guys have access to laptops or computers. In case you don't have, it's fine because I'll be going through these worksheets anyway. Yeah, so for those of you who can open these notebooks in a PC, can you just please ping me on the chat like yes? Yeah, okay, so Shakshi can open these and so can Abhirup and Izan. Okay, so great. For those of you who can open it, that's cool. I hope you have understood how to open it. In case you haven't, just let me know. Unmute yourself and let me know. I'll guide you through that again. Okay, so we'll just wait for like 1 minute so you guys can download and I'll just set up some things. Yeah, so you guys set up and till then we'll just recap what we did yesterday. So we talked about Python. We talked about that it is a general purpose language that can be used to solve problems. It can be used to build apps. And we talked about how great it is because it is easy to learn and use.
Sorry to interrupt you, Shivam. I
Yeah,
think the access is being denied because it's not.
okay, that's weird. Let me just check the link.
You can download it. I am downloading it.
Okay, so maybe it's mine. If anyone is not getting the access, they can tell in the chat so that he can help you with that.
Yeah, so the access is anyone on the internet with this link can view. So the link I've shared, it works, I guess. But still, I'll just post this link again in case any of you have a problem. Just use this second link. Okay, Somnath, it's not working. Okay. Um,
The first
yeah.
link is not working, sir.
Okay, this link will surely work. Just try this, please. Yeah, can anyone just quickly check and let me know if it's working?
It worked for me.
Okay, it's still not working, is it? The second link.
Sir, it's working now.
Okay, it's working now, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I've checked the sharing access. It should work. Yeah. Yeah, Aman Patel, the file is not supported. That's right. So what you have to do is you have to open Google Colab. Just go to again. I'm repeating this, guys. Just try to follow this. Just go to Google Colab. Just you can just search on this.
It's working.
What Somnath? I didn't get you.
বললাম যে স্ক্রিনটা একটু বড় করুন।
Shivam, he's asking you to zoom in a little.
Okay, yeah. I think you can see now. Okay, I'll just show it again. Just search this Google Colab, not C Google, just Google. So the first link would probably be research.google.com. Welcome to Collaboratory and Google Research. So you can just open it. Then you'll be greeted with a welcome screen. It will ask you if you want to what you want to do here. So if you get this screen, you can just go to upload and you can go to browse and you can select the 01.ipynb file. And when you open this file, it'll just open the Python notebook. Yeah, see, so it's opening now. In case you are not greeted with the welcome screen, you can just go to file and then you can go to open notebook. And in open notebook, you can go to upload and then the same thing. Just browse and open 01.ipynb, right? So I'm still waiting for you guys. Let me know if you guys could open it. Yeah, just try to open that link. Till then, I'll just recap what we did yesterday. Yeah, so we were talking about Python features. We know how it's easy to learn and use and easy to understand. Then we know that it's an interpreted language. That basically means that the execution of the program is line by line. So each line is first interpreted. It is sent to the computer. The computer understands it, and then it executes that line. And then the interpreter moves on to the next line and repeats that procedure. And then we know how it's open source. It's free to redistribute. It's free to license, and it's free to develop for anybody. And then it has a large standard library and support. So it's very flexible because of these libraries that it can be used for basically any application. Then it has a large community support and it's cross-platform. That basically means that it can be run on any platform such as Windows and Mac OS and even Linux. Then we were talking about how Python is different from other languages. So it is really user-friendly. That is what really separates Python from other languages. And the only downside to it is that the speed of execution of Python is kind of slow. And again, that is because it is an interpreted language, unlike the traditional language like C and C++, which are mostly compiler based. Okay, so we talked about how we can install Python. I showed you three ways. We can download the latest version of Python from python.org, or we can use Google Colab. And the third way was to just install an IDE such as VS Code or PyCharm. So it depends on your preference, which one you prefer and which one is good for your development. Based on that, you can choose that. And if you're confused which one you should use, you can just contact me. I'll help you out with that. Okay, that's done. Okay, then we talked about variables. So variables are memory locations where we can store any value. It can be an integer, it can be a floating point number, and floating point numbers are real life numbers, which are fractions. And yeah, and we talked about strings and Boolean values. Strings are just a random sequence of characters, which may or may not make sense. And Boolean values are just true and false values. Okay, and keywords are words that mean something to the Python interpreter, and we can't use these keywords to name variables in our program, right? Because the Python should know that if it knows the keywords, only then it can understand what we are saying. So some of the keywords that the Python uses are these. We talked about data types. You don't have to worry about this right now. The data types we talked about was integer, float, Boolean values, and um, what was the other one? One sec, guys. Please excuse me. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. Next we'll talk about operators. So we talked that operators are special symbols that represent something to that means something to the interpreter, and we talked about two types of operators that were mathematical operators, and we talked about relational operators. Those were mostly less than, greater than, double equal to, then not equal to, and we also have less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. These are the only relational operators that you have to know about. Okay, so we are done with that. And we also talked about the order of precedence of operators using PEMDAS. Okay, we today we are going to talk about if and else statements, conditional statements, and loops. Okay, so we are done with the recap. Please let me know if you guys were able to set up the Python notebooks. You guys can just ping yes in the chat if you were able to set up the notebooks. Okay, so great. Somnath and Sakshi were able to set up the notebooks. Even Santosh. Okay, that's great. So we can move on. Um, so let me just check something. Okay, another side note, in case you guys ever have any doubt in Python, you can just in the Python interpreter, you can type this line, help and topics. It will give you an assorted list of things that Python can do, and these are subcategories that you can open and explore. So let's just try. So I'll just type help and topics. So yeah, I got these, and if I enter these topics, then I'll get more help. So I can just type help, and maybe I have a doubt with assignment. So I'll just type assignment here. Okay. Yeah, so it tells me what an assignment statement is. It tells me what are the arguments that are expected, and it basically tells me how to use it. All right.
Sir,
Yeah,
hello.
please. Tell me. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Python is what to say, case sensitive language, or it support.
Yeah, yeah, it is case sensitive language, Rudranil. So we have like if suppose you have x equals to 10 here, and if I put capital X is equal to 10, and if I call print x small x, so it's just gonna print 10. Okay, I'll put capital X as 12 so that you know that they're different. Yeah, so small x is 10 here, as you can see. I hope it's visible. It's not that small. And then if I print capital X, it's going to print 12. So it is case sensitive. We also saw this yesterday in like true and false were like capitalized with the first letter was capitalized, and in all the variables we named the small, and even the print statement was small lettered. So yeah, it is a case sensitive language.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, okay. Yeah, so you guys have opened the first Python notebook, right? So even though I've already done the recap, I thought that it's better that if I go through the notebooks anyway, because these notebooks are designed for beginners, so it'll just help you to know how it's actually working. So here we have that multiple variables can be assigned at once. So we have the statement x is equal to y is equal to 1. So in most programming language, how assignment works is when we have a statement like x is equal to 1. So how the compiler or the interpreter understands this is it'll take the value, whatever value we have here, and it'll go from right to left. So assignment is always right to left. It comes like this, and it puts that value in this memory location that is named x, right? So now I hope that you know how assignment is working. So if you have a statement like x is equal to y is equal to 1, the same thing is happening here. One is first stored in y, in the memory location y, and that memory location is then stored in X. So that's how we can assign or initialize any number of variables at once with the same value, right? Okay, and then they have just used the print statement to print it. So again, print is it is it's a built-in function that is used to put output to the console. So if how does the interpreter understands this? So first it checks if it knows what print is. So it doesn't know what print is. It just goes to its system libraries. It checks for the definition of print. So in the Python inbuilt libraries, there's gonna be a file named print, right? So there'll be a file named print, and inside it there'll be stuff of what it has to do when it encounters the word print. So it finds that word print, it finds what it has to do, and in that file there's it is defined how print should work, and after that it just executes it, and it knows that it has to print X and Y. So the way we print two things in Python is we use a comma operator. If you only had X here, it's just gonna print one because we just asked for X, but we are asking for X and Y, so it's going to print X and Y. Again, I'm using Jupyter notebooks, but you guys can use the Google Colab. In Google Colab, it's okay. Yeah. In Google Colab, the execution button is right here. You don't have to go here like I'm going. You can just press the play button here, and it just works like that, right? So you guys can execute alongside me, and you can, and as I'm explaining, so it'll be better for you that you can understand and you can execute it on your own. Okay, so next we'll yesterday I missed one data type that was complex. So in mathematics we have these a plus bi type numbers that are complex numbers, the collection of rational and irrational numbers. So in Python, we can directly store these numbers in the form of complex. So how do you do that is you use the function complex and you pass the variables a and b. So we have a and we have b here. So you just pass these into the function. So a is 1 here and b is 2. So the Python shows that you have entered the number you have entered is 1 plus 2j because we passed a as 1 and b as 2, right? So this has a very small usage, like it's rarely that you're going to use it, but it's just something that you should know. Okay, so we already talked about operators, addition, subtraction, division, integer division that someone pointed out later. It just returns the integer value, not the floating point value. And then we talked about modulus, multiplication, and exponentiation. Okay, so here are just some test cases for the addition operator. So 1 plus 2.0 is 3.0. Then 3 minus 1 is 2. I don't even have to run these. You can just understand these. But still, I'll just do it once. Then we have some complex statements here. So 2 into 3 plus 0j. So you can, it's just that you can do any sorts of mathematical operations on any sort of numbers, be it integers, floating point, or complex, since they all come under mathematics. So you can just try these out. You can execute in your own Google Colab. Then we have 3 by 4 here. Again, if we have double division, it's going to return the integer value. So what is the integer value of 0.75? Can anyone tell me?
So
What's the
only zero.
integer part? Yeah,
Only
so
zero.
yeah, only 0. So if I run this, we're going to get 0, right? Yeah, so you can try these in your own Google Colabs. Then we have the modulus operator. We know that 15 divided by 10 is 1 and 5 is the remainder. So we get 5 as the remainder here, right? Then Python is like it can handle any like it can nearly infinite length integers. If any one of you has learned C and C++, you would know that in C we have this limit for integers that is 32,765 or something. That is 2 to the power of 16, I think that's the limit, or to the no, yeah, 2 to the power 16 or 2 to the power 32, either one of these. I'm not sure. So we have this limit in integers, and if you want to store longer integers, we have to use long and even double long and stuff like that. But in Python, we don't have to do this. We can just store it in normal int. And you can see that 11 to the power 300, it is such a huge number, and still it is being stored in a single variable, maybe x. We'll just try x, and we're going to print it. So you'll see that it's a really long number, something that you're not going to come across every day, and still it is able to store it in X and then print it. And again with the same thing with floating point numbers, but this time it says that it is out of range. Okay, because this one is not integer, this one is a floating point number. The thing with floating point number is it can only, if you give it a floating point number to the Python interpreter, it's gonna interpret it as a floating point number only. So 11 to the power 300, we know that this is the value of 11 to the power 300. But if you give float, then it's gonna be something like after this one, there's gonna be 0.0000, like up to 300 times maybe, or even more. So storing that, it really goes to, like, it really goes to the extent that Python can handle. So that's why it's giving an overflow error, that it can't store such a big value, even though that value is intrinsically same as this value. But just the fact that it has to store it in the form of 0.0000, so that there's an overflow error, and it says that it can't store it, right? Okay, so we talked about relational operators yesterday. That is, it returns true if this one returns true if the two values are equal. Okay, I don't need the definition. Give me a sec, guys. Yeah, till then, if anyone has doubt, they can tell me, and please let me know if I'm going too fast. I feel that I'm going too fast. Okay. Yeah, and then we have not equal to, so it returns true if two values are not equal. Then we have less than, and then this one returns true if the value on the left side is lower than the value on the right side. And then the same thing for greater than, but just the opposite. And then we have less than or equal to. So this one comes with that if the value is less than or equal to. So suppose I have 6 is less than or equal to 12. So this will return 2 because 6 is less than 12, right? Again, I can have 12 is less than or equal to 12. So this one is also returning true because 12 is equal to 12. So if it matches any of the conditions, that is equal to or less than, then it returns true, right? Okay, so we're done with relational operators. Okay, now we'll talk about yeah, Boolean also we talked about yesterday. So Boolean is nothing but true and false values. You don't have to worry about bitwise and bitwise and bitwise or. These are, it's like it's very impractical. You're mostly probably never gonna use it, but still I'm just gonna brush through it. So how does the bitwise operator work is, the integer values are stored in bits, right? It will be stored in zeros and ones. So we'll have 0 here, we'll have 1, 1, 1, some random number. I'm generating some random number. So how does bitwise work is, if I give bitwise left shift, then it's gonna shift every bit to the left. So it'll come like this. Every bit is shifted to the left, and the new byte that I'm gonna get is 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, and the last place is just filled with 0, right? So I get a totally new number because this one is popped. This one doesn't exist anymore. It just pushed out of the byte, and now we just have 1, 1, 0. So it actually changes the value of the number. So suppose if I had initial number was suppose 6, then the new number is going to become 12. It just doubles it if you shift by 1, and if you shift by right, then it's going to half it. So the new value will become 3. So suppose I was shifting right like this. So it's going to become, the first place will be filled with 0, and then it's going to become 0 1 1 1 0 1 0 0, right? So that's how bitwise work. It works on the memory level. You don't have to worry about this. It's just something that I thought you should know. Okay, then we have assignment operators. We already talked about assignments. Assignment just means that you are assigning a value to a variable. The way we do that in Python is using single equal to. Again, don't confuse this with double equal to. Double equal to is for checking if two values are equal. That is a relational operator. And here we have assignment operator, that is one equal to. Then we also have increment with assignment. So the way this works is, if I write x plus 2, that just means that, so we have x plus is equal to 2. So what this means is, first assign 2 to x. So first the interpreter will do x is equal to 2. It will put this 2 into this memory location x, and then it's gonna increment it by 2, right? First it assigns, first it assigns, and then it increments that value by 2. So suppose the first initial value of x was 2, because we have given x is equal to 2, right? Forget about this plus. But then we have also given plus, right? So it just increments that value by 2. So the new value that we have for x is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4, right? So that's how assignment with increment works. And then we also have x minus is equal to 2. So if I have x minus is equal to 2, that just means initialize x with 2. So I have 2 first, and then instead of adding 2, so instead of adding 2, shit, okay. So instead of adding 2, it's going to subtract 2 from this 2 this time, and we're going to get 0, right? So that's how the assignment works. So we'll just run this and check what happens.
Shivam,
Yeah, Somnath.
in increment, then first take the value, then increment, or increment then value.
Yeah, so in other programming languages, we have this pre-increment and post-increment, right?
Yeah,
If you're
yeah, yeah.
coming from C and C++. In Python, we don't have this type of concept. We just have post-increment. And in case you want
Okay,
to
okay.
give pre-increment, you have to give it intrinsically. You have to specify x plus 2 here, right here, if you want to pre-increment it. Otherwise, it is just post-increment here.
I mean,
So,
take the value, then increment.
okay, I think no, I went complete opposite. It is pre-increment. We'll see it here. I'll just run this and we'll see. It is actually pre-increment. Okay, I forgot to print x. One sec. So we'll just print x here and we'll print x here as well. So let's see. So first x was 3. So we print 1 here because x was 1. Sorry, 1, not 3. And then we use the statement x plus is equal to 2. So that means that uh, um, uh, that means that increment x by 2. So we get 3 here because 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, so moving
Sir,
on. Yeah,
sir, sir, please go to the page.
yeah,
Increment.
Rudran. Yeah,
Yes, yes, sir. You have written in the third line x plus is equal to 2.
yeah.
Here we can write x is equal to x plus 2. Then on also it gives the same
Yes,
value.
yes. Yeah, actually, that's what the interpreter understands. Internally, this is what it understands. This is just a fancy way. X plus equal to 2 is just a fancy way, you can say that, to write. The thing is, the operators inside the programming, they are designed in stack. Okay, so
Okay.
it's
Okay.
this kind of a stack,
Thank you.
and then you have these plus minus operations like this. So it is convenient for programmers to just have these written together, x equal to. These are the same. So this is why we write it, because inside the stack, anyway, they'll be written by the computer in this fashion, like together. So it means the same thing to the computer if you write it like x plus equal to 2 or x is equal to x plus 2, right? Yeah, I forgot to mention this. This is an easier way of understanding any type of statement. So suppose we have x minus is equal to 2. Uh, s- so this basically means x is equal to x
X
minus 2,
minus 2. Yes.
right? Yeah, Somna, that's right. Okay, so we're done with assignment and assignment with increment and decrement. Excuse me. Okay. So next is maybe you know about hexadecimal numbers. We're not gonna dig too much into this. So I'll just say that hexadecimal, octal, and binary, these are just different ways of expressing numbers. So the computer understands only binary numbers, as I talked about this earlier, that just understands true and false values, that is zeros and ones. So we can represent any number in either binary or octal or decimal. So human minds are intuitively they understand decimal numbers. So we are always using decimal numbers. So decimal number is nothing but the numbers that have a base 10. So the numbers that we use is 0, 1, 2. These are in base 10, right? So we have base 10. And we also have octal numbers that range from 0 to 7. These are base 8. Then we have hexadecimal numbers that range from 0 to I think F. These are base 16, right? So don't worry about these. These are just different ways of expressing numbers. So computer really works in hexadecimal and binary numbers. We just have to know this. Okay, then we talked about the integer function yesterday. So it is a function that returns the integer value of any number that we pass. It doesn't have to be a floating point number. Suppose I just pass 7, it's still gonna work. Let's just see. Yeah, it still works, right? You can just pass any number here if you want to make sure that you just get the integer value here, right? And then we have arguments here. Okay, don't worry about this. Okay, yeah, so integer can also convert strings into numbers. Suppose we have a string that says 111, and we have an integer that is 7. So if we run this, we're gonna get 11 11 111. So it has converted the string value 111 into an integer value, right? So, but keep in mind, it doesn't work if you give it something like GH something. If you give an actual string, which cannot be converted into an integer, I think it's gonna give a trace back. Yeah, so it gives an error, that value error. So it is saying that it doesn't know what this HKJ is. See, it's even saying invalid literal for int with base 10. So it doesn't know how to represent this in base 10, right? Yeah, so just keep this in mind whenever you're converting any number into an integer. Okay, so here we have,
Um,
okay, I don't really know
Hello.
what this is, but
In
let's just,
there, when there was triple one,
yeah,
there was you written comma two, then it was returning seven. Why?
yeah, so here,
Yeah, why it is returning
yeah,
seven?
it is returning 2 because it is returning 7 because I actually don't know. Let's just check the, um, let's just check the definition of int. So, okay, so the second argument is for in which a base you want, I think, right? Let me just see.
What is the question, sir?
Yeah, see, so it wants it's converting 11 11 11 into a binary string. So that is why I think it is returning 2 here. One sec,
Sir,
guys. Give me a sec.
the integer have a two byte. That's why
Uh,
it's returning
what
two.
what's on that?
Integer have a two byte.
I can't understand you.
Integer have a two byte.
Yeah, that's right, but I don't think that's what this is here. Let's just try it with 8. Yeah, so it is returning the octal number and the binary number. If I suppose I write 16 here, so it's just gonna give 273. So in base 16, 111 is represented as 273. So that is how it's working.
Is it converting the string into a number which is of base 16?
Yeah, I think so. I'm
But
not
how
really
is it
sure.
converting?
Yeah, see, here it is saying the decimal equivalent of binary 111 is 7, and decimal equivalent of octal 101 is 65. So it is converting the string into the decimal or the equivalent that we are trying to get. So two is the binary one, but why would it show two here? If I give two, it's showing 7. Okay, so the string is 111, right? Okay, I got it. So okay, so um, the way 7 is represented in binary, it is 111. Okay, somewhere along the bits it's 111. And how does that work is 2 to the power of 7 you can write is as 2 plus 4 plus 1, right?
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
স্যার ওখানে 111 আসছে জাস্ট বিকজ অক্টাল থেকে বাইনারি করলে 7 ইজ ইকুয়াল টু 111 হয় এবং ফিক্স করলে 110 হয় এই জন্যই আসছে।
Yeah, Somnath, I understood what the issue was. I'm explaining. Please try to listen. So in we can represent 7 as 2 plus 4 plus 1, and this is nothing but 2 to the power 1 plus 2 to the power 2 plus 2 to the power 0, right? 2 to the power 0 is 1, 2 to the power 1 is 2, and 4 is 2 to the power 2. So this is how it is represented in inside the byte. So this value is 2 to the power 0, then this by 2 to the power 1, and this 2 power 2. So these three bits are 111. So we are passing 111 there in that string. So we are basically asking how would you what's the value of 111 in binary? Okay. So in binary we know that if the values are 111, it just means 2 to the power 0 plus 2 to the power 1 plus 2 to the power 2. So that is equal to 7. And similarly for octal, we're just going to have 8 to the power 0, 8 to the power 1, and 8 to the power 2 here. And that just adds up to 1 plus 8 plus 64. And that was coming as 73, right? We got 73 when we had it here. Where is it? Yeah, if I do 8 here, that is octal, and I'll run it, I'm going to get 73, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Now
Yeah,
it's
so I hope that's clear now. Yeah,
yeah, it's clear now.
yeah, cool. So we talked about math. So the yesterday also we talked about this. So math is an inbuilt library in Python that gives us lots of functions in that can perform mathematical functions like sine and pi. So we can just use math.sine, but you have to first import. So what does import statement means? Import statement just means that what the interpreter understands from the statement is it's gonna go to the to its folders. The interpreter is gonna go to its folders, and it's gonna look for a file named math. So it's gonna look for this file named math, and then it's gonna bring it, and then whatever that is written inside this file, it's gonna use it. So inside the math function, we have functions written such as sine and pi. So these store the uh, uh, actual sign, like how to calculate sign values. They store the information of how to calculate the sign value. So if you give math.sign of math.pi by 2, that means that just calculate the value of sine pi by 2. So we know that sine pi by 2 is sine 90, that is 1. So you're getting 1 here. Yeah. So this is again just arithmetic operations. We talked about this. We can also use round function. So you can round it to any number of decimal places you want. So suppose I wanted to round it to up to 2 decimal places. So I want this for 4.55 to as 4.4. I want 4.55892 as 4.55. So I'm just going to say round off the number, comma, and I'm going to pass this argument as 2. That means that please round it to 2 digits. So it's going to round it to 2 digits. In case you don't provide any arguments, it's just going to assume that you want all the decimal places removed. Okay, no, so it's going to round it to the next whole number if you don't give any arguments. So that's the definition of the round function. So suppose I give here 5.1. So it's still going to return. Okay, it returns 5. So it's based on if it is less than or equal to 5. So
It's
for
the
5
nearest
point,
whole number.
yeah,
Nearest whole.
nearest whole number. Yeah, that's right. So maybe in mathematics you have studied about ceil and floor functions, right? So ceil is basically going to the nearest whole number that is lower than the value, and the highest floor is the highest. Sorry, opposite. Floor is the nearest whole number that is lower, and ceil is the highest number that is greater. So for numbers that are less than 5, less than or equal to 5, it's gonna go floor, and if it's greater than or equal to 5, it's gonna go ceil. So for 5.6, it goes to 6, and for 5.5 and lower, maybe 5.4, it's gonna go 5. Okay, then we also have absolute function that just provides the absolute value. So 5.4, so absolute of 5.4 is gonna become, let's see, it's gonna become 5.4. Okay, it's only supposed to be used for complex numbers. Yeah, I missed that. So you're not supposed to use this with these, only with complex numbers. So absolute of 5 plus 2j is gonna be 5. Okay, we can just test this. They have also written it here. Yeah, okay. Then we have div mod. Okay, let's just skip this because I've been programming Python for 2 years. I've really never used this. Like it's kind of impractical. I don't think you'll ever need to use this. Yeah.
But,
Then we talked
but what
about
was that?
yeah. So it's basically to return the quotient and remainder of a tuple. So we don't know what tuple is. We are going to be discussing about tuples
Okay.
today. So just wait. Yeah, we'll be covering that soon.
Mhm.
Then accepting user inputs. We talked about how input function is used to accept values, and if you want to display something along with that, like a prompt, like please enter your name, you can just pass an argument in a string. So yesterday we had this I think I've closed that. No, yeah, here it is. Yeah, yesterday we had this input, please enter your name. So I've passed this prompt. So when I run this, it's gonna ask enter your name, and then I enter Shivam, and the output was, if I use print text here, it's just no, we can't use print text because it's just gonna print Shivam because the actual value stored inside here is Shivam. But we also have the prompt that is enter your name. Okay. Yeah. So we're done with the first worksheet. I hope you guys were working along with me. So now we're gonna go to the second one. Just give me a sec.
You said that function gives the remainder of the tuple, but will it also give the remainder of a list?
I don't think so. It was mentioned that it's only meant for tuples.
Okay.
We'll cover how tuple and lists are different and how they are similar.
Sorry to interrupt you, Shivam, but I think
Yeah.
the div mod function actually, the two arguments that we give is basically it will return a tuple of the quotient and the remainder of both those numbers.
Yeah, Neha is absolutely right. I was in a hurry. I didn't read this because we have a lot to cover today. So yeah, she's right. Outputs the question and remainder in a tuple. So tuple is I'll be covering what tuple is. Just you have to know for now. You just know that if I pass two numbers in a div mod function, it's gonna return the quotient and remainder. So 9 divided by 2, the quotient is 4, right? And the remainder will be 1. So it just returns 1. So I can even have 13 and 7 here. Let's see what happens. If I run this, I'm going to get 1 and 6 because 13 is only divisible by 7 once. So 7 ones are 7 and 6 is the remainder. Yeah. So I hope that's clear. I'm sorry if I'm running through all this, but it's really impractical. I've never used it. So I just thought we could skip it. Yeah. So we are done with the
Continue.
first worksheet. Can you guys open the second one? Yeah, again, to open it, just go to your Google Colab, just go to File, Open Notebook, then go to Upload, and then you can Yeah, you can select browse, and then you can open the 02.ipynb, right? So if you guys have opened it, just please ping yes in the chat so we can move on. Yeah, so you guys have opened it. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about strings yesterday. So again, strings are just random sequence of characters that may or may not mean something. All right. So all is a string, and also we always keep strings enclosed in either single quotes or double quotes. It doesn't matter. You can also use single quotes and double quotes, but I would suggest that you use double quotes for strings because of string formatting. This is something we'll be talking about soon. So you can use both, but it is suggested that you use double quotes. You can also use triple single quotes or triple double quotes. These are for multi-line strings. So if you put triple quotes, you can have strings that extend into lines and into many lines. So here we have this one is a multi-line string, right? So the string starts on the first line, it ends on the second line. So the way we do that is by enclosing it in triple quotes. Okay. So we already
इसके
talked
पहला
about the
मतलब
yeah.
ये there was three single comma
Yeah, even this is that's also the same.
as in for double
No, no,
line.
no. Actually, this is a doc string. This is a doc
Yeah,
string.
doc
Okay,
string.
so yeah, so doc string is it's like if you want to put a comment, maybe you're writing a code and you're writing a logic, and you want someone maybe suppose you're working in an organization and you're writing this long code, okay, and you know what you're writing, but suppose your boss wants to see what you're writing and to explain it to him it's going to take a long time, so you just write a doc string or you write a comment that this is
Yeah,
what this
but we
program is about.
use a hashtag in Python.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can use hashtag and you can also use doc strings.
Okay.
It's up to you. The thing with hash is that it appears kind of ugly, you know. I don't have PyCharm open right now, but I'll show you later. When you use hash, it just comes in gray, okay, and in most text editor it just comes gray, and it's kind of it's not good for readability because it comes in gray. But if you use doc strings since they are strings, they just come in green, right? So green is more appealing to the eye, and it is good for readability. So lately many have been moving towards doc strings, and it's kind of the one that are recommended to use. But you can also use comments in Python using hash. It's totally up to you. It depends on what you prefer, right? Okay, so we already talked about the print statement. So we're going to move on. Yeah, so I was talking about string formatting. So string formatting, there are many types of string formatting in Python. So I talked about the addition operator yesterday, that if you use this with strings, it just concatenates them. That means that it just appends the second string to the first string. So what it is doing here is it is adding hello to this is just a empty space. So it is creating a space after hello, right? So it is adding hello and it is adding the space. Then after that, it is adding string one and string two. So string two is world and then string one is world and string two is an exclamation mark. So when we print this, we get hello world. Okay. So mode operator, it is mode operator. This is totally different from the mode operator that we saw earlier. That was to return the remainder of arithmetic operation. But here we are using mode to specify what kind of thing we are going to pass inside the string, right? So maybe we want to pass a string inside a string, or we want to pass an integer inside a string. So you'll know what I mean. I'll just show you here. So I'm printing hello, then I'm saying mode s string one. So what this mode s is, this mode s, you can think of this mode s as a placeholder for string one. So this mode s is holding this place for string one. So the Python interpreter understands that this mode s is holding this place inside this longer string, that is hello, for this string one. So this Python interpreter will take the string one value and it is gonna come and it's gonna put it in mode s. Right? I hope I'm clear. So mode s is just a placeholder for string one. And then we have the syntax mode by saying that, yeah, this is what we are trying to do. So the actual this is just the implementation of what I just said. So we're
I
gonna
didn't get you. I mean, what is happening is a hello is stored in string one.
yeah. So the string one is hello. We already specified this here, right?
Okay,
Sorry, string one is world.
world.
Okay, just know this. Just try to follow. I'll go through this again. So string one is world, and we are trying to print hello world here, right? But we don't want to specifically write world here, although that is easy. But in some applications you might get a value from somewhere outside the program, so you can just hard code it into hello world. So maybe you're getting the world value from somewhere outside, so you want this string one to come and sit inside here. So the way you do that is you tell the interpreter that this mode s is a placeholder, so it is holding the place for some other string, and that string is string one, right? So when we say that the string one is going to come and sit inside this hello, this string, the one inside the quotes, it doesn't have a name. We have specifically said that this is a string, so it doesn't have a name. But for your understanding, I'm trying to name it as hello.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. I get it.
Yeah. So string one is coming inside this string, and it is setting, and then we are getting hello world, right? And the same thing is happening here. We are saying actual number is equal to mode d. So if you want to if you want to hold the place for a string, we say mode s, and if you want to place the hold for an integer, we say mode d. And this was what this is. So for float, you have to say mode f. For octal numbers, mode o. For mode x for hexadecimal, and so on. So actual number is equal to mode d, and we are passing 18 here. So it says actual number is equal to 18, right? And the same thing is happening for all the other cases. Okay, and now we can, this is just doing it like multiple times. You can just give a space and do it again. So hello world string one, string two. So string one was world and string two was exclamation. Right here, as you can see, right? Yeah. The meaning of this life is 42. So it has also incorporated a mode D here for passing a integer. Right. So we are done with string formatting. Um, yeah. So then we have a function called len. So len is short for length. So we can use this to check the length of anything. Suppose I have, mm, yeah, we have world here. Suppose I want to know what is the length of this string world, right? I want to know what is the length of this string world. So I'm just going to say length of string one. So to the interpreter, that means that you're trying to find the length of string one. So intuitively, we know that the length is 0, 1, 2, 5, right? You can see that the length is 5. So that's what it's going to return. One sec. Yeah. What?
Yeah, you have to print it.
Oh yeah, I didn't print it.
You
Yeah,
have to
that's right.
store a
Thank
well.
you, Somnath. Yeah. So I have to print the length. Length just returns the length. I didn't specify it to print. So if I give print, now it's gonna print it. Yeah. So I got 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters in string one. So it returns 5. So length is a very useful function. Whenever you build something, you're definitely gonna use it.
And
So always good to know. Yeah, Somnath, you were saying something?
here length is 5 and index is 4. 0,
Yeah,
1, 2, 3.
index is, yeah, that's right. So internally, the Python interpreter will count from the index 0 to 5, but
Okay.
it will increment it for our understanding, right? Why do you want to keep it as 4? Then I have to add another clause that you have to add 1 because the index is 0. So just returning 5, it's more convenient, right? It makes more sense. Yeah, okay. So we have list comprehension now. We'll talk about this later when we're done with if statements. And okay, so we're done with this worksheet. Now next we are going to be talking about if else statements. Now let me just open that one.
Will we be getting any worksheet that we have to complete?
Yeah, I've
Any
sent you the
code?
worksheet, right? Who's it that asking?
Aviru.
Yeah, Abhirup. So in the chat, I have, see here I have given the link, right? So I'm sending it
Delete the
again.
worksheet here.
Yeah. So just open this link and then you will have this folder that is, I'll just show it to you. One sec. Yeah. So you're going to get this drive folder. So I want you to download this entire folder, right? And in this folder, you have these files 0001pynb. So right now we were doing 02.ipynb, right? So
Yes,
you can just download this 03ipynb for now. And after you download this, you can just go to Google Colab and you can go to file and then you can go to open notebook. And inside this, you can go to upload and you can upload that ipynb file that I was just talking about, that 03.ipynb, right?
no, I was saying that some work that we have to code
Um,
like that.
sorry, Abhirup, I didn't
It
understand that.
means this I am talking about that we have to code for something.
Okay, so you want to write that, right? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I want to write a
that's
code.
also fine. The problem is we are a bit short on time for now, but these are just for your reference. Like you can execute alongside me as I'm explaining what's happening. So you can just
Yes,
execute right now because if I wait for you to type, which we did yesterday actually, it's just gonna take a lot of time, right?
yes,
So
yes.
you can type and you can try it out yourself later maybe, right?
I mean, you
So
can give us some program that we have to solve or something like that.
yeah, we're gonna do that, but we're still covering the basics, right? We don't know what is
Okay.
if else. Yeah.
Okay,
So once you're done with that,
okay, yeah. Sorry, Shivam, to interrupt again.
yeah,
And
no worries.
Abhiru. So basically, since we are trying to cover everything for the game development workshop, that is why we have actually scheduled this event a little bit shorter as compared to how it was supposed to be. So that is why we are having it for 3 days instead of for a week or so, so that we could. But if you guys are actually this much eager to learn Python, we can always have a second workshop after this month. Maybe in November, we can have it again and we can again, start learning Python. So for now, I would just say that just follow along so that whenever the game development workshop starts, you won't face any issue. Let's learn up to what is required till that point. After
Oh,
we are done
okay,
with
okay,
that,
okay.
we can have another workshop like this.
Yeah, in fact, we are planning this as a long-term thing. So
Yes.
if we receive a good feedback, like if the session was actually helpful, we're gonna take this to the next level and we'll actually do like really cool stuff. For now, I just want you to know the basics, and we're gonna solve problems. Don't worry. Either today or tomorrow, I'm gonna be solving problems with you guys. Okay, so I was talking about if. So suppose you want to solve a problem, and uh, so the way one sec. So the way the Python programming works is that yeah. Okay, so the way yeah. So the way Python program works is again yeah. It works by executing every line by line, right? So this is like a very simple kind of flow, like it just goes from first line to last line. Now what if in between these lines I want to check a condition? Maybe like yesterday we were talking about is 3 less than 7. So what if we want to check this? So we know that if we just give 3 less than 7, it returns true. That is true. But what do we do with this? This is not like something that we are actually using. So the way we use this is we use if statements. So if statement, what it means to the interpreter is that after the if statement, we're gonna give it a condition. We can give 3 is less than 7. We can give this condition. Okay. So now how if statement works is if this condition, the condition that we are providing with if it holds true, if it holds true, then it's gonna execute a set of statements that we are gonna give inside the if. So this is one block of code that is a part of this main block of code, right? This is the main block. And inside this main block, we have a sub block that has an if statement. And inside that if statement, we have a condition. So if this condition is true, so we know that 3 is less than 7, it just returns true, right? Like I have shown here in the interpreter. So if it is true, it comes inside if, and there are a set of statements that it's going to execute. And once these statements are executed, then it returns to the main block of code and executes the rest of the statements, right? So I think it's too much to understand at once. So I'm going to go through it again. So suppose we have a block of code. This is the block of code. It has some like many statements inside, and we have a if statement here. Then if statement has some block of code of its own, and then we have more set of statements inside the main block. So how this works is the interpreter will be executing line by line, this line, this line, this line, all done. Then when it comes to if, it's gonna check what is the condition with if. Maybe it is 3 less than 7, right? So this is true. So it will come inside the if, it is gonna execute the statements that are inside the if, that is these statements. And when these statements are executed, it's going to return to the main block and it's going to execute the rest of the statements. I hope I'm clear. Now, the other thing, if suppose this statement comes out false, maybe 3 is less than it was actually 2, not 7. Maybe it was 2. So 3 is less than 2, that is false. 3 is not less than 2, we know that it's greater than 2. So it's going to come out false. So in this case, it's not going to go inside the if. Okay. So this never happens. This part never happens. It's not going to go inside the if statement. It's just going to come from here to here. So it's going to execute the rest of the statements in the main block, right? So I hope you guys know how an if statement is working, right? So you can just type yes if you have understood. You can just type yes in the chat quickly. I'll go through this again if you haven't, because this is kind of a important topic that you should know how if works. Yeah, so great. So you guys have understood that. So we'll just move on. So here we even have the syntax. So if some condition, like I said, if and some condition, if it's true, code block only execute the code if some condition is satisfied, or else, or we can also say that if some condition is true, right? So here we have x equal to 2, and then we are checking if x is greater than 10. So we know that here is 12. We know that x is greater than 10, right? Because x is equal to 12. So if it is true, we are saying that print hello. So if we execute this, it's just gonna say hello, right? Because that is true. Now suppose if I give x equals to, if I give 7 here. Okay, if I execute this now, it's not going to print anything because x equal to 7 and x was 7, but 7 is not greater than 10. Like I said, if the condition is false, it's not going to execute it and it's going to go to the next statement. And here we don't have any other statement, so it doesn't do anything here, right? And another thing you should know is that this space that we are giving after if. You may ask, why are we not writing it like this? Why is there a space in between? So if I execute this, it's gonna give an error. It's gonna say expected and indented block. So it says that I'm expecting a tab space here. Now the reason we need a tab space here is because in Python we don't have curly brackets or semicolon. The compiler doesn't know when. So in C and C++, the compiler know when is a line ending using semicolon or using curly brackets. We know that a block of code is ending. But in Python, we don't have all this. The way the Python interpreter knows that a line is ending is simply by spaces. So if it's spaces, if it encounters something like this, it knows that this line has ended. Uh, and uh, and the way it knows that if we have to come inside an indented block, or like I said, it has to come inside the if statement, right? How does it know that the if statement, the statements inside the if statements are different from these statements? So the way it knows this is by indenting. So if I have indented this, it knows that this statement is inside the if statement and these statements are different. Suppose I again print hello, right? Hello world. I'll type hello world. So this statement is it's different from the if statement. So this statement is part of the main block, that is this block, this whole block, right? So this statement will execute no matter if the if statement is executed or not, right? So x is not greater than 10. We know that it won't go inside the if statement. So let's just turn. So this time it's printing hello world. So we know that this statement is outside the if statement. So that is why we are using indenting. I hope that's clear, right? Okay. So moving on. Yeah. So now we have if else. Now suppose if statement fails, then we just have print here. But maybe I want to check another condition. No, no. It's like maybe I want that if this statement doesn't execute, I want something else to execute, right? So I'm just gonna give else. That only means that if this statement doesn't execute, you just do this. You just do this for me, right? This is what I'm telling the Python interpreter. That if the if statement is not working, if this condition does not work, please do this. Just print hello world, right? So we'll just try this. Yeah, so it's printing hello world because this condition is not matching, right? Okay, so we're done with if else. Now we're gonna do else if. Now suppose you want to check another condition. You might say that okay, we're checking x is greater than 10, but are we checking if x is say greater than maybe you want to check if x is greater than 70, right? So we'll just give this value 50. And we want to check these both conditions. We want to check if x is greater than 70, and we also want to check if x is less than 70. So, so we'll just print if that is true. We'll just print yes, x is less than 70, right? So I'll just run this. Uh, okay, it says invalid syntax
You
because
have
I
to give
didn't
the
give else
elif
if.
function.
Yeah. So the syntax for else if is elif. Okay, it just stands for else if. The coders have made it elif just so it's not long. Okay, so if I run this, it's gonna say okay, it didn't say anything weird. Okay, I'm executing the wrong block. Um, yeah, yeah, that's weird.
There is a else function.
Okay, so the thing is, this condition is coming true right away,
Yeah.
right? X is
Uh,
greater than 10, that is true. So
and the edit function is false, so it is not printing.
yeah, Sona. So if the if statement is true, it's gonna ignore all the other statements, right? So it's just gonna execute if and it's gonna exit that block. So that is why we are not getting this. So we'll just modify this and we'll say that if X is greater than 100. Okay.
Shivam,
Yeah. Yeah.
there is no break or switch function in Python.
Break. Yeah, it is there. There's no switch, but there is break.
Yeah, there is continue.
So this continue also, yeah. So break is for, if you want to get out of a loop. We'll be getting to loops. That time I'll be discussing that. Don't worry. Yeah. So now it says x is less than 70 because I first checked x is greater than 100. That's not true. So now it is checking if x is less than 70. Then that is true. X is 50, so it is less than 70. So it just says x is less than 70, and rest of the statements are ignored. It just ignores it and goes to the next line. Okay, so we are done with else if also. So the same thing, this is also an implementation of the if else statements. So here we're trying to check which of the numbers is greater, right? So suppose I give here 12, let's see what happens. Both the numbers are equal. So now it prints x equals to y. So how is this achieved is through if else statements. So first is it checks if x is greater than y. That is not true because they are both equal. So it doesn't execute. Then it checks else if x is greater than y, sorry, less than y. So that is also not true because they are equal. So the last conclusion that it can draw is else is print x equals to y because both the numbers are none of the numbers are greater, none of the numbers are smaller. So it knows that we know that. So we have printed that x is equal to y, right? So that's how you can use if and else if statements and else statements. Then we have nested if. So suppose you have if statement and you want to further check something. So instead of checking in two different statements here, I can just check here inside the if I'll put another condition if y is greater than um, x, y is less than x. I mean, so I'll make this true. I'll make this 13. Then we're gonna print that y is less than x, right? Yeah, and also if this statement comes true, we're gonna break. Oh, no, no, I don't think this is gonna work. Wait.
No, if it's big, then the if function
Yeah, we'll just
won't
run
work.
it like this. Let's just see. Yeah, so it's printing both the statements because x is greater than y and y is less than x. That these both are true. So when it encounters x is greater than y, it checks is x greater than y. That's true. So it comes inside. Here it finds print, so it just prints this. And after this, we have given another if statement inside the original if statement, and that is y less than x, and that is true. 12 is less than 13. So it just prints again that y is less than x. So this is just a small example of how you can use if inside an if, right? I'm just trying to give you a small example. Of course, we're going to use this into building something else, like something like this. Okay, this one looks bigger, and what it is trying to do is it is trying to find which is greater, and if it is equal to 10, you're going to print the value, and or else you're just going to print that they're equal. Right, so all these complex tasks you can just you can simplify these using if else. Okay, so now coming to loops, so I'll just give you a gist of what loops are. Before starting loops, I would just briefly ask if any one sec, if any of you guys are having any doubt up to this point, or you want me to revisit any topic, I'll be happy to. Yeah, please let me know.
No, it was good.
Okay, so Abhirup's fine. You all can just type yes in the chat, and we'll just get going. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we're good to go. Okay, so now we have loops. Okay, so suppose there's a task that you want to do repeatedly. Suppose you want to print hello, want to print hello 10 times, or maybe you want to maybe you want to count up to 50. Say you want to count up to 50. So writing this in Python, it'll be like you have to write so you have to write print one, then you have to write print two, then like this you have to do this up to print 50, right? So this is a very tedious task. So the way we tackle this is by we introduce loops. So loops are just statements that are repetitive, and like if you want to do something many times, uh, that is tedious. So you can introduce loops. So loops, even the word suggests that a loop is like this is what a loop is, right? So it starts at one point and it comes back to that point again. So that is how it works in Python as well. We'll have some statements in the main block, then it'll encounter a loop here. So the loop will keep running as many times as we want it to, and then once it has served its purpose, then it'll come outside the loop, and then it'll execute rest of the statements, right? I hope it's clear what's the use of loop and why it is used. So now we'll just see what's the syntax of a loop. And also syntax is nothing but the rules of how you're supposed to interact with Python and how you're supposed to write stuff, right? Okay. So we have two loops in Python. We have for loop and we have the while loop. Okay. So internally they both work essentially in the same way. But the only difference is that in the checking of a condition, you'll know what I mean by that when I'm done explaining this. Okay, so we'll talk about for loop first. Okay, so the syntax is for, then variable name. So some variable in something, and then the code. Okay, so that's how for loop works. So let me just explain it here. Suppose we have a collection here. Okay, I don't want to go into lists and arrays right now. So we'll just know that this is a collection of objects, right? So this is a collection of objects, and first object is one, two, three, like this. So I'm gonna say for object. So suppose these are objects, right? This is an object. This is an object. This is an object. All these are objects. So try to read this as English, right? So for object in suppose the name of this collection is suppose say it is Shivam. Okay. So for object in Shivam, I'm gonna say. So what do you understand by this statement? If you just read it in plain English, let's just focus on this in English, right? So for object in Shivam, that just means an object in Shivam, right? I'm trying to refer to an object in Shivam. So what is an object in Shivam? So Shivam is this collection, and an object inside it is one. So that's where for comes in. So for an object in Shivam. So that is what we are trying to get here. We're trying to get one. So for object in Shivam refers to the first object in Shivam. Okay. Then we have this dots, that is the colon, and after that we have statements in this loop. So when I say this and it finds an object in Shivam, which we are trying to do. So for object in Shivam, for object in Shivam, it finds an object in Shivam that is one, and when it finds that, it just comes and it executes the statements of the loop. When it is done with that, it goes up and it looks for another object. So another object here is 2, right? Again, it'll do the same thing. It'll execute the statements. Then it'll look for another object that is 3. So it'll keep on doing that until it is done with all the objects. And once it is done with all the objects, it'll come outside the loop and it'll execute the main block, right? So I hope I'm clear with that. And since it's a bit complex, I'll go through this once more. Um, so um, so we have a collection. We have a collection here. It has some number of objects. Suppose one, two, three, and we write for object in Shivam. So the name of that collection is Shivam, and we give this syntax colon, and we execute some statements. Okay. So what these statements mean is it's gonna find an object in Shivam, that is the first object, and if it finds it, it's gonna come inside this block and it's gonna execute. And when it is done with the execution of statement inside the for loop, it's gonna go up again and it's gonna find the next object. Uh, 1 second, guys. Give me a sec. I'm sorry. Yeah. So it finds the second object, then again it'll execute the statements, and it'll go again. It'll go up and it'll find another object, and it'll do this until it finds all the objects. So once it is, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. So once it has found all the objects, it's gonna end the loop, and it's just gonna execute the main block of statements. Okay. Like I said, there are main block statements. Then we have a loop here, and then again we have main block statements. Okay. So I hope I'm clear with loops. So you guys can just write yes in the chat for if you understand the concept of for loop. Okay. So at any point, if you guys have any doubt, just let me know. Okay. Okay. So we're done with for loop. So I'll just explain what's happening here. So again, the same thing for ch in ABC. So this is a collection, right? The string is a collection of these single individual letters, that is A, B, and C. So it'll first go to A. So it has found the first object, that is A, and the statement inside the for loop after this indent is print. So it's gonna print A, right? Because it found ch. The first statement, the first thing, the first object that is found was A. So it just prints that. That's what we're trying to do, and it prints A. Then again it will go up. It will find the next object. The next object is B. So next it will print B, and so on, right? Now we are just keeping a total, that is 0. Now for I in range, so range is the function that will return all the values from 0 up to the number that we are giving. So we are giving 5, right? So it will give all the values from 0 to 5. So that those values are going to be
It returns up to 4.
uh,
Executes to 0 to 4.
sorry, what? I can't hear you.
Does it execute to 0 to 4
Yeah,
if you
it'll
are
execute
giving
to 0
5?
to 4. Yeah, yeah, not 5, not 5. The 5 is excluded. Okay, the range 5 is in the range. 5 is excluded because it's starting from 0, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3. You want it to run 5 times. That's what range of 5 means. That give me 5 numbers in the range of 0 to 5. So in the range of 0 to 5 means including 0 and excluding 5. So we're going to exclude 5, and we are getting 5 numbers, right? So
Yes.
in this, it just says that for I in range. So this time it is iterating. Iterating just means selecting the objects and going through them one by one, right? It's just a fancy word for going like this, like we were talking. So first it finds 0 because
Sequential.
we are saying, yeah,
Is going sequential.
yeah, it'll go in sequence. Yeah, that's how for loop works. So first it finds 0, then it finds 1, then it finds 2, and so on. Where is it? Yeah. So again, for I in range, that means first find 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then total is equal to total plus I. This just means total is equal to total plus I. So the first time total is 0. Excuse me. Yeah, so the first time total is 0. And the moment the interpreter encounters this, it's going to find that so total is 0, right? So 0 is equal to, it's going to evaluate total is equal to 0 plus I. So I right now is 0. In the first moment, I is 0, right? In the list we had from range 0 to 1. So first value is 0. Yeah, no 5, only 4. Yeah. So first value is 0. So it's going to evaluate total as 0 plus 0. So total is 0 right now. Okay, now this statement is executed. Now it will go find another object in the range of 5. So the next object in range of 5 is 1. So again, it will come inside the loop. It's going to evaluate total. So right now total is 0. From the last iteration, if you remember, the total was 0, right? So total will now become total. Total will be equal to total, that is 0 plus I. And I right now is 1. I right now is 1. That is the second iteration. So first we had total is equal to 0. Now we have it as 0 plus 1, that is equal to 1. Okay. Now again the loop has ended, so it will go and find another object in the loop, and that is 2 this time. So this time the total is 1. So this time it will evaluate it as 2 plus 1. Total is equal to total plus 1, that is 1 plus 2. So this time it will evaluate it as 3. And so on, it will keep on counting. So next time it will be 3 plus 3, that will be 6. And again it will be 6 plus 4. So in the 10, it's going to be 10. In the end, it's going to be 10. Yeah. Okay. So it would be 10 if I would print it here, right here, print total. So if I just run this, yeah, it's gonna, no, it's print 26.
It won't be plus equal to it is.
Oh yeah, plus equal to I've given it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah, now
different
it's gonna be
operator.
fine. Yeah, now it's 10, right? I by mistake I gave the plus increment again, so it's incrementing twice. Okay, so again we are doing some kind of operation here. We are doing exponentiation here. So this time I'm iterating into from 2. So I'm saying for I comma j. So I'm asking the for loop to find 2 elements this time. Okay. So I'm trying to find 2 elements instead of 1. Up until now I was trying to find only one element, either 0 or 1 or 2. but this time I'm trying to find two elements at once, and I'm giving the list myself. I'm giving the collection myself, and that collection is 1 comma 2 and 3 comma 1. So the first object inside this collection is 1 comma 2, right? So I and j will be 1 and 2 respectively. So this time I'm evaluating total as I to the power j. So it will be 1 to the power 2. So 1 to the power 2 is 1, and again 3 to the power of 1 is 3. So when you evaluate this and you increment everything and go through the loop, it's gonna evaluate as 14, right? I wish we had time to go through this loop again, but it's gonna be time consuming. So I expect you to do this as an exercise on your own. Just iterate through each objects once and come inside the loop and then execute those statements, and then go up the loop and pick the new object, and then again execute those statements. And when it ends, just end the loop. And when it ends, you're just gonna print it, right? Okay. So with that, I think we're done with for loops. You don't have to worry about this. This is just the same thing, but with a collection of a collection. So we
Matrix
have a
format.
collection. Uh, what?
In this is matrix format, list of the
Yeah,
lists.
you can also think of it as a matrix format if you're coming from C. But in Python, we generally don't talk about multi-dimensional arrays or I mean two-dimensional arrays. We just
Only one.
have we just yeah we just have collection. We call that as a list, and that collection of objects, it can store any sort of values. So now that I'm touching list, I'm just gonna talk about list right away. So suppose we have yeah suppose we want to store many elements, right? We want to store many objects. So the way we do it is by we store them in lists. Okay, so I can store one here. I can also store a string. I can store hello. Sorry for my handwriting. Then I can store again. Then I can store floating point value 2.0, and so on. So a list is basically it's just a collection of objects that can be of any data type. It can be integer, it can be float, it can be a string. So you can store any type of data inside a list. Okay, and then we can have a list of lists, right? So this is your main list, and inside this you can have another list. You can have some elements, then you can have a collection of lists inside a list. Okay, so that is how lists work. So maybe I have three lists inside a super list, right? So that is how lists work. So lists, as the name says, it is just a list of items. So you're just storing lists. I mean, you're just storing elements inside a list. So here we have a list, right? And list is always denoted by square brackets. Remember this. So we have this main list outside with the braces. I mean, the square brackets. And inside that list, we have three lists: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, which are a list in themselves because they are also storing some values, right? So just have to know that list, what a list, and there can be lists inside of a list. Okay, and also we can have nested loops, just like nested ifs and nested lists. We can have loops inside a loop. Okay, I would love to go through this and like execute one by one. But what it is trying to do here is it's trying to get the total of all the lists. I mean all the numbers. So 1 added up to 9, it's 45. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus and so on up to 9, it is 45. So that is what we are trying to do here. So in your free time or maybe after this session, you can just sit through this IPYNB file and you can try to execute this on your own, right? Okay, so for loops, we're done with for loops, we're done with lists. Yeah, so the break statement, I told you that I'll be going through the break statements once we're talking about loops. Oh, yeah. So
Uh,
suppose I'm executing through a loop. Yeah, yeah, Somna, tell me.
so I don't compare with a loop or nested loop. What is the difference between nested loop or loop? Simple loop.
Okay, so nested loop is just that you are putting another loop inside a loop. So for see, suppose this it's okay. For list one in list of lists. So list of list, how can you tell me how many list does the list of list have?
There is a three list.
Yeah,
One,
there
two,
are
three,
three
four,
lists,
five,
right?
six.
Yeah, that's right. No, inside the main list, there are only three lists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for list one in list of lists, it is gonna execute three times because we have three lists inside the main list, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when it finds a list, suppose it finds this list, so it will come inside, and again it is encountering a loop. Okay. Now it says for x in list one. So in list one we have three elements. So this
One,
this
two.
this yeah. So this loop is gonna run for three times, right?
Okay, okay. After the first list, then the executed পরেরটা
Yeah.
চলে আসবে তারপর by
So
2. Then
every
again.
time, yeah. So every time the first loop is executing, the second loop will execute three times. Am I clear?
As I mean, nested loop is used for multiple loops
Yeah,
or
if
multiple
you
lists.
yeah, if you want to see, we have a list of list here, right? We can just iterate through one, two, three like that. Suppose if I didn't have this statement, if I don't have these statements and I execute this, so it doesn't know what total is. I'm just gonna print list one here, okay? So here it's just gonna okay, indented block. I'm gonna give intent. So here it's just gonna print these lists, but it's not printing one, two, and three. It is printing these individual lists. So, but I want to print these individual lists. So that's why I'm giving another loop here, right? So that I can iterate through these single elements.
Okay, okay. Now I
Yeah,
can understand.
yeah. So now I'll give this again, and instead of this statement, wait, here I'm gonna give print x.
Sir, after the
I'm
class
gonna,
or
yeah, I'm gonna
after
remove
the
this. Yeah, now you're
hello.
gonna see it's gonna print one, two, three up to nine.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Somnath, tell me.
So what is suppose what is the basic format for loop in Python?
Yeah, this is the format, right? I told you for and the object that you are this is just a name. You can give any object name here. Then in and in is for like the list that you are gonna be searching in, and then you name the thing that you are trying to find the object in, right? So we define the list first, and then we're trying to find an element inside it, and we can name it anything. I can even name it y, but it is suggested that you give it list one or something related to the list, so that you know that you are trying to find
Why
find
we
a
use
list
is
item.
equal to total is equal to 0?
A total is equal to zero is so that the
Or the
if I don't
initialization?
yeah, initializing, yeah, if I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
give
yeah,
any value, it may have some junk value inside it, right? So that
yeah,
junk
yeah.
value will be
Arbitrarily.
used to, yeah, because
Okay,
memory,
okay. Shivam, sorry.
yeah,
I think we are facing a lot of issues, and everyone is not able to understand what is going on here. And I even see the strength has also reduced. So,
okay,
I think the only solution to this is that if we just learn the topics right now and we can have a practice session maybe in the evening or tomorrow. Is it possible? Do you guys want a practice session so that we can only practice on the problems that we are going to solve? Because
okay.
I think,
G- Guys, just be honest and just write in the chat if I'm going too
yes,
fast. It's fine. We'll do something. It's okay.
yes. We can have a practice session if you guys want
Phone कर लो
later on.
यार. Daddy, please.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
okay. So what we are gonna do here is, like Neha suggested, I'm just gonna brush through the topics, and I'll just try to get you a feel of what, at least you understood what for loop is, right? Just
okay.
let me know in the comments if you
Okay.
understood what a
Yeah,
for loop is.
Abhirup is not facing any issue, but I think Abhirup also suggested that we do some problems alongside. So I think
Yes.
what I would suggest, Shivam, is that don't take it too fast. Go on normal pace, on a pace that a normal student would be able to understand. We will have a practice session in maybe whichever time you guys find optimal.
Okay,
So,
that's
yes.
great. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I hope the basic concepts are clear. That's the main part actually, that you have to understand what are if statements and for loops. So at this point, I'm again asking if any of you have any doubt in if and for statements, please let me know. Yeah, okay. So no one is has a doubt in if and for statements. So don't worry about nested if, nested for loops, nested lists. For now, you have understood what are if statements. You have understood what are for statements. So for statement is just a loop, and you know what is a loop, and you know what are lists. So lists are just collection of objects. Don't worry about nested lists and nested for loops. Okay, so we are done with the loops and lists. Yeah. So now let's talk about while loop. Okay, so in for loop, so for loop is great when we know that we have a list, right? So for loop is great when I know that I know what I'm iterating through. I know that there are elements here. I know that I have elements here. So it is great when I know when that there are elements here and I can iterate through them. But suppose I don't know that I have these elements or what these elements are. So in that case, I can use a while loop. So in while loop, it checks a condition first. Okay, it's like if statement here. Suppose I had actually that is how a while loop works. It works like a if statement. Okay, so forget about this while for now. Let's just write if here. So I is equal to 1, right? So and if I is less than 3 and that is true, so it is gonna print I to the power 2. So I is 1, so 1 to the power 2 is 1, and then I is I plus 1 and it's gonna print by. It's not actually printing I. Yeah, it's just printing I to the power 1, that is 1. So it's printing 1 here. Okay, why is it printing 4 though? Okay, let's just get rid of this. Yeah, so now it just prints 2, and then yeah, so now you know how if works. Okay, now so let me just replace this with while. So the only difference here is that after the if statements, suppose I had if again, and after the if statements, I'm gonna increment or I'm gonna moderate. I'm gonna modify the value of I. Okay, so suppose I'm gonna give I is equal to I plus 1. So after the if statement is run, and I'm gonna print I here. Okay, let's see what happens. So 2. So I is being incremented at the end of the statement, and we have 2 here. Okay. So let me just replace this if with while now. Okay. So while just means that you're gonna execute up to this statement, and then you're gonna check the original statement again. That's all that while means instead of the if. So it's kind of a loop, right? So first you are executing this statement, then you come here, then you go back up again, and so it's a loop. So that's the only difference between while and if. That while is going to do the same task repeatedly, and it's basically if. It just checks if this statement is true, it comes and executes, then it modifies the value, and now that I is 2, it's going to check again. Is 2 less than 3? Yeah, that's true. So again it will do something, so it prints 4 this time because 2 to the power 2 is 4. And the last time, again, it increments I from 2 to 3. But this time, if it checks 3 is less than 3, that comes as false. So if that is false, it doesn't execute, right? I told you to think of this as as an if statement. So if I is less than 3, that is false. So it doesn't execute these statements. It just comes out and it prints I. So the current value of I was 3. So that's how while loop works, right? Um, So I hope you understand while loop. If you're clear with the while loop, please let me know.
Also, to all those who have understood, can you please tell us what is the difference between a for loop and a while loop? Anyone, in a very approximate, like whatever the definition you are having it in your mind, you can share with us.
ফর লুপ হলো তোমার এন্টার কন্ট্রোল লুপ আর হোয়াইল লুপ এক্সিস্ট কন্ট্রোল লুপ।
The answer is quite accurate, but I want a very rough definition, not
Yeah,
whatever is.
so Somnath has said it in a definition form. For you
Yes.
to understand, I'll tell you it in a way that you can think of it more intuitively, right? So when I have a list and I know what I am looping through, at that time I want to use for, right? So in like in the for example before, I knew that I had a list here, right? So that's why I used for. I knew that I'm going to be iterating through this. So I'm using for here. I can't use while here. Actually, I can't use it. I mean, I can use it, but it's more intuitive if you use for because you're
Can I
iterate.
say one
You
thing?
know that. Yeah, yeah, Somnath, please.
Sorry to interrupt. Sir, for loop, we used to decision making, but the while loop we have to use uh, mm, কি বলবো ওটাকে, পুনরাবৃত্তি মানে রিপিট যদি না
Condition
হয়।
which, yeah, I got
ইয়া
what,
ইয়া
what you're
কন্ডিশন।
saying. We want to
ইয়া
check
ইয়া
condition, yeah. So I
ইয়া
was
ইয়া
getting to that. So for loop is when you know what you will be iterating through, and while loop is for when you want to check a condition. Okay, so you want to check if I is always less than three. You only want to execute a statement that is print I to the power two when I is less than three. That is why say we say while. So as long as in simple English, while means as long as, right? So as long as I is less than 3, we want to print this. That's all that means. Okay. So I hope we are clear with the while loop. Now let's come to break. So you can just give break inside loop. So break will just it'll break the loop and it'll come outside of the loop. Okay. As soon as it encounters break, it'll come outside the loop. So initially we had 143. Let's see what we get now. So now we are getting only 1 2 because print I to the power 2 is 1 to the power 2 is 1, and after that we are getting I is equal to I plus 1, that is 2, and after that we are getting break. So no, the loop is breaking, it is not checking if 2 is less than 3. So loop is breaking right here, and then it is printing I, that is 2. That's why we are not getting 143 here. Now suppose I give if I is greater than 4. I'm giving a if statement because I don't want to break it like at any point of time. I wanted to break the loop when I is greater than 4. Now we know that I is never getting to 4, so we know that it's never gonna break. So again, it's coming as 143. Okay, so don't stress about break statements. Break statement is just a statement so that you can go out of the loop. It gives us control for the execution of the loop because sometimes if you forget to give increment statement, right? If you don't give this statement, a loop may keep running endlessly. So that's why we don't want to give. That's why we want to always keep a break statement in case we
স্যার,
want to get out of the loop. Yes, Somnath.
there is any goto function in
No, no.
Python?
Actually, no. We don't have goto function because maybe there is, but we never use. I've never heard of a goto function in Python, and I don't think it's there because goto function it is very unethical to use because it just causes many it can cause the breaking of a program in logic and as well as in execution. It is never recommended to use goto unless there is so I want you to think of goto statements it is a statement that you never have to use actually. You can literally use anything else, and you can build the same logic without goto. So it's kind of a redundant statement, you never have to use it, and in the programming world we always consider it to be unethical if you use goto statement.
So one
It
more
can
thing.
be used if it exists, but it is recommended not to.
In
Yes,
support
yes,
of
Omna.
Shivam's statement that he is saying, this is true. Actually, in software development practices, the use of go-to statement is not considered a wise option. Even in your third semester or fourth sorry, in your third year, you will have a subject called subject software engineering, and there also it is written that go to statement should be avoided as it actually breaks the flow of control of the program. So it's better that you don't even get into using go to statements.
Yeah. So we're done with break. Let's talk about continue. So in continue, continue is like you can think of it as the opposite of break. So break breaks the loop and it ignores all the statement and it'll go to print. Suppose if I had break here instead of continue, it'll ignore everything else and it'll go to the next statement of the that is after the loop. Okay. So suppose this is still inside the loop. Suppose after the loop I had a statement, right? This is some statement. Okay, I'll just give print. Yeah. So we have this statement print. So if we give break, it's gonna break the loop and it's gonna come to print. But what does continue do is continue is gonna ignore the rest of the statements inside the loop. And the only difference between break and continue is break would ignore this statement and it would ignore the next iteration as well. It's not gonna check if and it's not gonna check the loop. It's just gonna come out and it's gonna come to this print statement. Okay. But in continue, it's gonna ignore this statement just as break, but it's gonna go back to this statement. It's gonna check the next value in the loop. Okay. So this is helpful when we don't want some execution to happen after a if statement. Suppose if we don't want to print the value of I after when it has reached 4. Suppose it has reached 5 and we don't want to print it. We just want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, and we want to print 6. We want to skip 5. So we'll just give if I is double equal to 5, then you continue. You skip the statements and you continue the loop. So the this statement will be skipped and I will become 5, and the loop will continue. That's the only difference between continue and break statements. Guys, give me a sec. Hadi?
Neha, are you there?
Yes,
Yeah,
Somnath.
yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No,
So
can I say
yeah,
one thing?
yes,
Yes.
sure, sure, Somnath.
Both of you done several projects, and you I see that in C or C++ we use for loop generally, but in
Yeah,
Python the case is totally different.
That is not the case. See, the point with programming languages is that apart from learning that programming language, it should be useful in some real world application. So like in case of Python is mostly used for data science. So yeah, it may happen that while you are learning data science or learning something that is some application that specifically uses Python only, it can happen that you follow some practices. So when we are talking about preferences, like if while loop is preferred or for
Yes,
loop is preferred, it is completely dependent on your use. But it is always useful to use while
uh,
loop, the reason being that it is more flexible. You can actually modify the amount of incrementation that you want, incrementation or decrementation, whatever you want to say it. So you can just modify it, and it can be very flexible as compared to for loop, where you have to specifically skip a number of steps, then only you can move on to the other one.
yeah. And also adding to that, I would like to say that it actually depends on the application, right? If you, like I said, if you have to use for loop, uh, while loop is so flexible, you can just use while loop anywhere, right? But for loop has its own applications where you know the collection or the list, right? So
only
it's
one
easier
second.
to use. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so
Uh,
Shivam, I think Rudranil wants you to repeat the difference between for and while loop again. Can you just?
yeah, sure, sure. I think I wasn't clear, even I was feeling that. Okay, so like I said, for loop is when we have a list and we know that there are a certain amount of elements inside the list, we can just say that for every object in this list, you do something. That's what we are trying to say to the interpreter when we write for loop, right? For some object in that is inside this list, I say do some things, right? I just write some statements. I say for every object inside this list, you do something. So in this case, I know that I have a list. I know that there are objects inside this, right? But now suppose I want to count the numbers without a list. I don't have a list here. Okay. I want to count numbers. Okay. Again, you can do that with for, like for I in range, like we saw here. I can do that with for loop. But don't you feel that while loop is easier? You can just write while it is with a condition you can just give. If you write for loop here, let me find it. Where is it? Yeah, like we had it here. The addition one. Yeah, here. So I have to say I have to give the range, right? I don't have a list. I don't have predefined list. I'm having to give it a list, that range of 5. So first it will construct that. Where's that? Yeah. So it will first construct the list from 0 to 5. Then it will iterate through one like this. So it's like it's kind of complex, I can say. But if you just give while, it's just gonna check if I is less than 3 right now, right? It's not even gonna create this letter. It's not gonna bother about all this. It's just gonna check if I is less than 3 or if I is equal to 3, depending on what condition you have given, right? So instead of this, I could just write here while I is less than 5. Total is just equal to total plus I, and I can initialize I as 0, right? So if I give this, I'm gonna get the same output, except that I haven't. Where did it go? Yeah. Um, didn't I print total? Okay, I gave total. Yeah, so I have to give I here. So what's the issue? Okay, yeah, I didn't give the increment. So I is equal to I plus 1. So it's running an infinite loop right now because I forgot to give the increment statement. So because I is 0, it's always going to be 0, right? So I is always going to be 0 and 0 is always less than 5. So it's just stuck in these statements. Now I've given I is equal to I plus 1. So now it'll be fine. What's the issue? I think these there's some issue. I don't know what it is. Yeah, yeah. There's some issue. It's not running anywhere, right? So yeah, now it's running. Yeah, I'll just write that again. Give me a sec. Yeah. Okay, indented block. Yeah. See, it gives the same output. I didn't have to worry about any list. I just gave it the condition that it has to check. I initialize the value of I, and I'm incrementing the value of I until it reaches 5. And when it reaches 5, it just breaks and it comes to the next statement, right? So that is the difference between while and for loop. And why you can use while at almost when you want to use loop, you can use while
Sir,
anywhere.
sir,
Yeah.
sir. In while it checks the condition and repeats it. In
Yeah, it
while.
checks the condition, then it
Ah,
comes inside, then it
ah.
increments the value of I, and then till it becomes 5, it's gonna do the same thing again and again inside this, right?
Yes, sir.
So
And in for loop it does not check. It directly runs the
no.
Yes.
In for loop also it will check, but what in for loop it is checking if the
Condition.
object exists inside the list. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So it will check if there's an object inside, and then it will execute. Suppose it reaches the last element. Now it doesn't have any object beyond this, right? So it will come out of the loop. So both the loops will check something. Without checking, you can build a loop, but it's just a way of like how it is happening. In for loop, we are iterating through a list, and in while loop, we are checking a condition. That's the only difference, right? Yeah.
okay,
So
sir.
I think
Okay.
I hope you guys are clear on loops, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just check if we have something else left here. So I talked about break. I talked about continue as well. Okay, then again, you can use if else inside the loop. Okay, so while the loop is running, you can just count if a statement is true, right? Here we're trying to find if the number is even. So using count mode 2, suppose the number is 4, so 4 mode 2 is equal to 0. That means 4 is a even number. So if it is an even number, we are incrementing the number by 2, and then we are saying continue. So it will keep on giving us even numbers, right? Depends
Sir,
on yeah.
sir, both continue and break statement are jump statement. Right.
Yeah, they let you help they let you help the flow of control by jumping from one statement to another. The only difference is break will totally take you out of the loop. It will come out of the loop and it'll print whatever the next statement is after the loop statement, right? So suppose we have a print statement here. So it's gonna execute this after the break, and if it encounters in continue, it's gonna ignore all the statements inside that loop that are left, and it's gonna go to the next iteration. So it's gonna go to the check condition again. It's not gonna break the loop. It just continues the loop,
Okay.
and it ignores the rest statements. Yeah. Okay. So next we are try and accept. Okay, Neha, how much time do we have today?
I think we have covered the important topics, right?
Yeah, all everything except tuples and dictionaries, and
Okay,
that's not going to take a long while, I
okay,
think.
okay, guys. If you want to, I would just ask everyone who is present here. Do you guys want to extend the session for a while, or do you want to leave? Because I can understand that it's.
Yeah, because sitting at in one place, I can understand. So it's fine. We are not in a hurry. If I've made a commitment, I will take you guys through all
We
this.
should do it. Okay, so Sakshi is saying. Okay, Sakshi, will you join today's practice session if we organize in the evening? Can you say that so that even if you miss it, we can repeat it there, right? Okay, so Sakshi would
Okay,
be.
but Sakshi doesn't speak for everyone else, so I don't know.
Sakshi won't be continuing right now, I guess. So that is why I asked her. So
Okay, okay. So you're planning to continue, but okay, okay, I get it. Yeah,
yeah,
So we can continue tomorrow also.
yes, we can
yeah, we
continue.
can. But we had other things planned for tomorrow. But okay, yeah,
Okay, let me get this straight. So tomorrow is the day we are going to start with the project, right? So, like, we are starting with the project for I think at 7 p.m. So
yeah.
we don't have anything scheduled before 7, and all of us are going to be busy before 7. So what do you say, Shivam? What do we do? Most of them are willing to leave, I guess.
Okay, so
Uh, so we
I've
can extend
Any program
tomorrow's
or
meeting
something like that
10 minutes or
to
15
solve
minutes.
okay, okay, guys. I'll make a decision based on. Let me just iterate through what we have done. So I told you about the intro of what Python is and what are the basic things. We talked about data types. We talked about operations, addition, subtraction, and everything. We talked about string manipulation, like adding strings and string formatting. Then we talked about data structures. We covered lists. We haven't covered tuples. So actually, lists are the most prominent data type used in Python. Tuples are also relevant, but yeah, I'll take you through tuples. Don't worry. Then data structures, we have only dictionaries. Okay. Then control statement. This was very important, so I covered it today. We have done everything except try. Shit, I broke it. 1 second, guys. Yeah. Then classes and SciPy, these are like advanced. We already did functions yesterday and even today. So I think we are almost done with the Python basics. The only things that are left are tuples and dictionaries and some nested if and those statements, right? So I would suggest Neha that we can whatever whenever's the next session, we can just wrap this up the basics and then we can do what we want. So maybe we can just meet tomorrow. Yeah,
Yes, we
Okay.
can do that. Okay, so
yeah, because we only have tuples and dictionaries left and try statements. Only three topics. And even these we have covered the basics, so I don't think it will be a problem. And for now, I please urge you, if you guys have any doubt in anything, please ask me, because I can't go over through
Uh,
all this again.
okay, guys, give me a minute. Just give me a minute, okay? Before I think we should officially end the session, and then
Yeah.
after that we can continue.
Okay, so in that time, if yeah, Somnath wants you to tell something, please tell some Somnath.
सर जो आपने पढ़ाया है तो वो
Hmm.
जब टफ होगा तो एक क्विज मतलब गूगल फॉर्म में जब रहेगा सपोज वहां पर बेसिक पाइथन का 10 और 12 क्वेश्चन रहेगा तो हम देख
अच्छा,
सकते
हाँ,
हैं हम
ओके,
कितने सीखे हैं।
श्योर श्योर, मैं क्विज बना दूंगा आपके लिए। मैंने आज इसलिए नहीं बनाया क्योंकि वी हैड दिस वर्कशीट्स, राइट? सो मैं सोचा ये वर्कशीट करते करते ही यू विल बी brushing through the concepts and it'll help you. I didn't feel the I didn't feel that quiz was necessary. But okay, if you want it, I'll sure
It's
arrange that.
quite challenging or some help to
Okay,
us how
okay,
from this
I understand.
complete.
Okay, if you want challenges, okay, maybe I can give you a small
Okay,
assignment if you
okay,
guys.
guys, listen, listen. So I have officially asked to stop the recording. Now all of those who want to leave can leave, and all of those who want to practice with us for like 15